Welcome to the David Game Horizon Pods. My name is Theo Theodorou, and today we will look at the life of Dr. Rosalind Franklin, a British scientist who is best known for her contributions to the discovery of the molecular structure of DNA, who sadly passed away at the young age of 37. And I have with me today Dr. Julia Cushnir, the Head of Sixthform at David Game College. Welcome, Julia.
Hello, Theo.
It's good to have you here, and quite an interesting topic this is. Before we start, tell me a little bit about your role here at David Game College, and maybe, if you wish, a bit of your background and why you decided to do chemistry and so forth.
Okay, it's nice to be here with you, Theo. As you mentioned, I'm the Head of Sixthform here at David Game College, but I'm also a chemistry teacher. So my time is split between teaching chemistry and running the sixth form. So I joined David Game College, I think it was in 2012, and I joined for 8 hours a week to teach some GCSE and some A-level chemistry. And over the time that I've been here, my children have grown up. I have more time to devote to work, and my role has significantly increased. So it started off that I was doing the teaching, and then they asked me to run the lab. So I was setting up all the experiments as well as doing all the teaching, because I wasn't the only chemistry teacher. And then I just was chatting with John. I said, I've got a bit more time now. Is there anything else that I could be doing here? And he suggested that I did a bit more, I suppose you'd call it, or my friends call it anyway, administrative work. And I started looking after the A-level students. And the role has just developed from there.
Excellent, Julia. And yes, you've been here quite a long time, from what I understand.
You say that, Theo.
How many years have you been here?
I've been here about 10 or 11 years, and you say that's a long time, but actually compared to many of our other members of staff, it's not very long at all, because we have some members of staff here that have been here much longer than I have.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad that you're here. And, today's topic is about your hero, I would call her, Rosalind Franklin. And tell me about who she was and why did she impress you so much?
Okay, so Rosalind Franklin was a British scientist. She was instrumental in the discovery of the structure of DNA. She also was instrumental in many other things as well. Although she, as you mentioned, died very, very young, she had an extremely prolific science career up to that point, where she published many, many papers on lots of different things. She worked at one point on the structure of coals, and she's also worked on other biological aspects as well besides DNA.
And how did she come to your attention? And was it during the time you were at school, or when was
slightly later, when I was doing my PhD. My PhD was looking at the structure of alkylated guanines, and guanine is a DNA base. And one evening on the television, before there was, lots of channels, so there was a Horizon programme, and it was on Rosalind Franklin. It was either on Rosalind Franklin or on how they worked out the structure of DNA, but she featured very heavily in it, and I just found it really fascinating because she didn't receive the Nobel Prize for her work. Oh, right. The main reason being because she was unfortunately dead by the time they awarded the prize, and they never award the prize posthumously.
Right.
But probably because of that, she wasn't anywhere near as well known as Watson and Crick, who the structure is attributed to.
Yeah. But from a little bit of my reading that I did, I heard that Watson and Crick did not give Rosalind obviously that accolade that she should have had. They kind of stole some of her documents. Is that true?
My understanding is that she had the photos of the double helix structure, and they found them. I don't know what they were doing in her office looking for them. And from those photos, they were able to work out the structure, the double helix structure. Mm-hmm. But she never, as I understand it, gave them the information in the first place. Is this
what it's called? Again, I had a photograph 51.
That's correct.
Is that
photograph
what it's called?
51, yes.
Okay, that's an X-ray diffraction image of DNA.
Correct.
Okay. And she had an associate there, which was a guy called Raymond Gosling?
Yes.
Yeah, who was at King's College as well with her. Right. So she kind of resonated with you, basically, and you felt,
She resonated with me because a lot of the emphasis on this Horizon programme, besides being about how they got to the structure, was about how badly treated she was in her time at King's. In that it was obviously a very long time ago, but at the time she appeared to have been one of only a few female scientists. And in like coffee time or something like that, she wasn't allowed to sit with the male scientists. Oh. So, and at the time I was doing my PhD, and things have improved a lot now, but it was still quite a while ago that I did my PhD.
Yes.
And within where I was working, there were very few female scientists. It was a very male-dominated environment.
That's interesting.
And so I could relate on some level to what she was going through.
That's interesting, because I was reading today in Times Higher Education that even now a third of all students that go to study STEM subjects are only girls. It's mainly men that go to study STEM subjects.
That is quite true? Possibly true, yes. But what I find very surprising is that this year in my A-level class, I have 15 students and only one male.
Really?
Yes. So, and I think that in the year below there are more males, but it's still very heavily dominated, female dominated. So I don't know why it is that here at David Game we're bucking the trend, but we are. Although it is fair to say that in physics that's not the case. It is much more male dominated in physics.
In physics, fine. So, did she have an influence on your career at all?
Yes, I think she was clearly a strong woman, and I would like to think that learning about her gave me strength. I find in this current world, there aren't a lot of positive female role models that have worked really hard. You've got all these influencers and all those sorts of people.
Yes.
And I think that she is a very positive influence. And I actually developed an adult education course for my local synagogue to look at women like her, to try and inspire young girls to go into science and to work hard.
That's interesting. And what would be the advantages of studying chemistry? It is a very difficult subject.
It is a very difficult subject, but it opens so many doors. So you can go, if you study chemistry, you can go and do a science degree at university. You could probably go and do a law degree at university. So, and I think what it does, it helps you develop a very logical mindset. And so, and that's a very good training for everything.
Yes.
So both my husband and my son have chemistry degrees. And both of them have chosen not to work in chemistry, but to go into accounting. And
Interesting.
And
analytical minds, huh?
Yeah, it's an analytical mind.
Yeah.
And so they're very sought after in the accounting fields, in banking and things like that. So
that's quite interesting. And do you think it's important then that students should, during the course of their studies at school, study the history of science and not just leave it aside,
I think
whether at school or university, because it's such an important subject. And I mean, the American degrees have this first year, which is a far more open form of education, where they can choose modules and so forth and subjects from any discipline at all. Do people have to have that kind of an open mind approach to education, that rather than just fixated on what they're going to basically have as a career?
I think that is a very good point. And I believe in the state system it is compulsory to do some form of science up to GCSE level. And I do think that that's a very good idea, except that means you're trying to pass an exam rather than learn about the love of science.
Yes.
And I don't know how within our current education system you can encourage people to love a subject. Yeah. Because it is so exam focused. But that's a discussion for another podcast.
True. Very true. Very, very true. Are there any pitfalls in studying chemistry, do you think?
Well, as you mentioned, it is very hard, but it's not impossible. And if people come in with a positive attitude and that they really determined to make it work, then I don't think there are any pitfalls. The only caveat I would say to that is that I think that if you come from GCSE to A-level, GCSE doesn't stress the amount of maths that's actually involved in A-level. Right. And so you should just be aware that it is a very mathematical subject.
Right. Good. And has Rosalind, has she influenced any other aspects of your life as an individual? Such as, for example, feminism and so forth, and strengths within that, because she came from an era where men were dominant.
Yes.
And when she was at Cambridge as well, she was kind of isolated because she was, although intelligent and capable.
I think she has influenced me in that I didn't come from the sort of background where strong women were encouraged, shall we say. Yes. So although I was educated at North London Collegiate School, where strong women definitely were encouraged, but that wasn't my home background. And
that was a girls' school as well,
yes.
wasn't it? Yes.
So my schooling combined with people like Rosalind Franklin encouraged me to believe that it was possible to do whatever I wanted.
That's good. And you basically, working here at David Game College, you deal with international students, a lot of international students,
yes.
Yeah? Do you see, when they actually first come to you to start their A-levels, do you see any differential in their backgrounds, in their high school backgrounds? Are some of a higher level than others? Do certain countries dominate than others? How do you deal with it in the first instance when they arrive?
I would say that it's very individual. And so for GCSE, I teach GCSE as well as A-level, we just assume no one's known any chemistry at all.
Right.
And we start right at the beginning.
Yes.
And in A-level, I wouldn't say we start at the beginning because you can't, because there's not enough time. Yeah. But we start behind where we would do if we knew where everybody what everybody's level was, and we fill in the gaps for people.
That's good. And what you said you have 15 students this year.
Yes.
What are the expectations of those students? Are they applying to Russell Group universities?
Yes,
do you have any Oxbridge students at all?
In general, they are applying to Russell Group universities. I have one student who has an offer from Cambridge, and I would be very surprised if she didn't meet her offer.
What subject will she be studying?
I think she wants to do some biochemistry.
Biochemistry at Cambridge. Well, excellent. And the expectations, obviously, of the students are that they are going to get into Russell Group universities,
Yes.
and that's what the parents obviously send them here
Yes.
for. What happens if they don't achieve the grades that they expect to get? What usually what counselling do you give, and what approach do you take?
I mean, often if they don't receive the grades, if it's just one grade, the university might take them anyway.
Absolutely, yes.
If it is slightly more than one grade, the university still might take them. You just don't know. It depends. Each year is different.
Right.
So recently it's been more difficult because there's still this knock-on effect from when too many people went.
From
during
COVID. During COVID, oh yes. Yes.
But if the worst happens, and let's hope that the worst doesn't happen, we are able to usually place most of the students through clearing.
Excellent.
And you can often get Russell Group universities through clearing.
Very good. Well, finally, this podcast is going to go out to many people, including students and parents and beyond. What message would you personally want to give to the listeners about your subject, and what encouragement would you want to give them to come and join your class?
Well, I say that chemistry is the best subject that you could possibly study, and I think that you should come and join my class because I have a small group. I should mention, you might say 15's not small, but actually they taught in two groups, so they are small groups. I think that myself and all the other staff here give our students a lot of help and individual attention so that they're able to achieve their potential. Lovely.
Well, thank you very much, Julia, for joining me today. And
It's a pleasure.
to the listeners, for more information on all of our courses and any topics we have discussed today in this podcast, you can find it on davidgamecollege.com. And thank you for listening.